OVC Media Days continues from Cape Girardeau. Brad Korn joins us, first time ever here in the OVC. Coach, welcome to Media Days.
Yeah, I guess it's not how any of us would envision it, but here we are, and I'm excited to be here. So thank you.
So I trust my fellow media have been kind to you so far. Have you been through the ringer of the interviews so far? Because I'm the tough one.
Yeah, so to speak, it's been good. Everybody's been um, a lot of questions, especially given these times, and you're going to have a lot of questions during transition and everything else. So I think to me, it just speaks to the excitement that there is for SEMO basketball and hopefully what we can do in the future.
So you spoke to a very neat feature that I wanted to kind of extrapolate a little bit of. That is, your coming to SEMO happened in the height of this pandemic, if you will, the early phases of it. So kind of take us through what happened, with the cancellation of the rest of the Big 12 tournament, I'm guessing, and then on into postseason. And then roughly 10, 14, 15 days later, you're hired at SEMO.
Yeah, so we were at the Big 12 tournament. We're getting ready to play Baylor, and I actually had the scout before that, so I had back-to-back scouts in the Big 12 tournament. We're sitting in our ballroom, going through our scout report meeting at about 11 a.m. It was, and our athletic director walked in, Mr. Gene Taylor, and as soon as he walked in, you could just feel the energy drop, just because everyone kind of knew at that point the night before is when the NBA had really started canceling their games, and so we're all wondering, is it really going to happen to us? What's going on? So you go through that whole situation. I vividly remember people in Kansas City, just in the hotels and on the streets, even in the Power Light, those that are familiar with KC, just not dispersing or, acting like it was a panic situation, but everyone just didn't know what was going on. So everyone was just jumping in their cars and filing home and going through this whole process and not really having an opportunity to do a true, probably would have been a normal interview process. Finally getting to be able to come on campus with my family and then take the job. And then, we're still in a dead period. And in a normal transition, you're doing visits, you're doing recruiting, you never really get a chance to catch your breath in transition. So it was, in some ways, it's been a blessing, just because it allows you to just hit pause, reflect, get your thoughts together, get organized. You don't have to be on that constant run that most people are when they take new positions. So that part of it's been nice. But then the flip side of that is you don't get to meet your new players. They don't get to come to campus. You're trying to move your family during a pandemic, trying to get started during a pandemic. So there's all those factors that come into it. And then once we did finally get on campus, we were put on a little bit of a pause because obviously you're bringing everybody to the campus and everything like that. So literally, I think 5-6 guys on our roster. The first time I met them was August 23rd. So that's a unique situation to say the least.
It is that, and we always talk about the book we're going to write. Yeah. And I think that's a great opportunity and a great insight into because there were not a lot of hires that were happening during that period of time.
Right. And so it kind of goes back to I think a lot of people will see that as it's like, oh my God, everyone I've talked to, or a lot of people that I've talked to are like, man, I feel so bad for you. I feel so bad for you. And it's like, I feel blessed. It's not the situation that any of us would pick. But at the same time, it's always been a dream of mine to become a head coach at an institution like SEMO, at a program like SEMO, in a town like Cape Girardeau. So to me, it's not ideal. But again, I think if you look back in everyone's lives and you look back in your career, if it was easy, well, then, none of us would really be here, or everybody else would just do the job that you have. And so I think that's kind of the perspective that I've taken on it is I'm here for a reason. I'm here to guide us through this and we'll get through it.
And it's coming back to a region of the country you're very familiar with.
It is, just being up the road about an hour where I spent a lot of my time, not only as a player, but as an assistant coach as well, with a lot of success. Just talking to the team about that and what I gave to that university and what it continues to give back to me is really what stands out. And I don't know that you can get that anywhere. I think that speaks to the region, the people. I really feel that here, and that's why this job was attractive to me. Not only the administration, but just the region itself. They love basketball. They want to be a part of basketball. They want to see the programs do well, and again, that's attractive in any job.
Okay, let's talk about the nuts and bolts of it. You mentioned not meeting your players face to face, some of them until late August. All of those things, and it's been a standard question we've been pretty much asking everybody today and tomorrow too, for that matter. But you got your staff together. I've seen team photos. By the way, I like that you're old school. You're front and center in the middle of your team photos. Sometimes you see the coaches got to linger. I guess because you're so tall, you're just going to shadow over everybody else. But talk a little bit about what that point has been like from that point in time in August when school began, be it virtually or in person, some on campus in Cape, to where we are right now. Where is this basketball team towards your expectations and toward what you really want to? Do you think they're pointing in the right direction?
I do, and it's been interesting for us because like I had mentioned a little bit before, we were put on a little bit of a pause at the beginning. So even we got to meet them, but we couldn't work out for the first couple of days. And so now you're just kind of getting into that feel out process. The players are trying to show what they can do. They don't really know us as staff members, even though we've Zoomed and talked all throughout the process. It's still different when you get in face-to-face contact. And the other side of it is we didn't have summer. And so now basketball wise, you're still trying to play catch up and you're trying to be smart. We had a couple guys coming back from injury. Again, 6 new guys on the roster. So they're trying to figure each other out as well, just the dynamics of their personalities. And I felt bad for them from the standpoint that they didn't get to have that locker room time, if you will. They didn't get that time in the summer to really get together with one another. And I didn't get to yell at them or anything. And then they get to go in the locker room and make fun of me afterwards or learn any of my mannerisms or anything like that. So I felt bad from that standpoint. But now I think we're kind of getting there. This is about to be the 7th week, I believe, that we've all been together. So you're kind of approaching that summertime of what you normally would have had. We've had a couple setbacks. We've had a couple pauses. So if you go from 4 days off to 3 days on to 4 days off, in those 3 days, it's kind of hard to, we came up as a staff one time and we're talking about it after practice. It's just like, well, what do you really expect in those situations? You're trying to implement offensive system, defensive schemes, and all those things. But if you only have 3 days and then try to carry it over, I try to make the bad analogy of a math class. You don't start math in chapter 4. If you don't get chapters 1, 2, and 3, you can never get to chapter 4. So, and you're always going to be behind. So it's kind of been that chapter 1, chapter 2 every single time. But now this week has been a good week as far as we're clear to go. We've got 10 guys that we can put on the course. We can play 5-on-5, get some good film that way. So we're kind of now just approaching where we can start to build and be as it goes. And again, I don't necessarily panic on that because obviously you want to be playing your best basketball towards the end. It's just dealing with the factors of the unknown, which make it a little bit frustrating.
All right. Media love to talk about this. Fans love to talk about this. Identity. What is Brad Korn's identity? Talk a little bit about your philosophies when it comes to basketball.
I think you'll hear a lot of the same things, right? When you talk to coaches, and again, to me, identity goes back to culture, goes back to all those catchwords. And to me, it's just it's a combination of what you emphasize and what you tolerate. And what we're going to emphasize is toughness, attention to detail. And I think if you do those things on both sides of the ball, you're going to give yourself a chance. Obviously, I come from a defensive background, being under Chris Lowry, Paul Lusk, Coach Weber most recently. It's grit, it's toughness, it's details. I've been a part of a lot of great teams and won multiple championships at a lot of different levels. And there's no one player, one offensive scheme that has been the reason why. It's been toughness, it's been discipline, it's just been that sheer desire to do it no matter what it takes to get the job done. So we're going to be a tough, aggressive, physical man-to-man defensive team. And then offensively, it's good. It's great over good. We got to get a great shot over a good shot, sharing the basketball. And I think everybody has a lot of those same philosophies, right? And so now it's just a matter of communicating that and then having the guys buy into that. And that'll be what we are, a combination of what we emphasize and what we tolerate.
Way early and almost an unfair question for you, but who should we look for on this team? Who have you seen kind of emerge during these limited practice sessions?
It's kind of been a different guy each day. We've had a few injuries. There's been a couple bright spots with guys coming back from injuries that I wasn't quite sure where they'd be at, and they're ahead of where I anticipated they'd be. Obviously, you've got a guy like Chris Harris, who was 15-point per guy before he got hurt last year. He played a couple games, hit a game winner. You return guys like Jordan Love, Nigel Russell, DQ Nicholas, who have all played in games before and now need to take that next step as they progress in their careers. And a couple transfer guys that were sitting out that people didn't know about. Nana Akatin, and I think the transfer from Nebraska, he can be a nice bright spot for us. And then there's a lot of unknowns with the transfers that we brought in just because they haven't had to play at the level. So there's some unknowns there. But as far as the buy-in to our vision and our mission of what we're trying to do, I've been very pleased with the guys. It's a very mature group. We say things one time and we don't have to stand over them to get it done. So to me, what that says is going forward as we get into the depths of the season, we're going to be able to change and adapt. Because again, I'm not going to just sit here and try and fit a whole bunch of square pegs into a round hole, so to speak. We're going to have to adapt and change, especially in this climate with the situation that we're all dealing with.
And to that point, it's a 20-game season, which is new to all the coaches in the conference. Think that benefits you and gives you a longer ramp, so to speak, to figure this team out?
I don't know. I think it's going to give us a good benchmark early because we're going to play 2 of those conference games before Christmas. So that's going to give us a little bit of taste. Everybody knows that conference play is different. And so I think we'll be a little bit different in that sense, just because we do have half of our team is new. So the other teams aren't going to know quite as much that you typically would in a normal year. So I think for us, it's going to be a great benchmark. So, hey, here we are before Christmas. This is what the rest of the league is going to look like. So now where do we go from that time going forward? So I think that part of it's a really good, and I think it's a good idea by the league, quite honestly, to try to get as many games as possible, because we don't know where this thing is going to go day to day and week to week.
Yeah, last question. I want to slide this in, coming from the Big 12, kind of looking east to the OVC. Kind of what's the perception of the conference in the middle of America? OVC, again, we're very proud of the fact, continually improving, getting better, getting more teams in the tournament, had some really great runs. Expect this season to be pretty much the same. What's the perception in mid-America of this conference?
I don't think, obviously, the BCS Power 5 level, I think they act like they know when it becomes mainstream media, but until that happens, they don't really know. Being a mid-major guy myself throughout my playing career and coaching career, for the most part, I've always kept an eye on it. It's always been something that's been very intriguing to me, especially having played against SEMO and Murray while I was at SIU. There was always great players. There was always great players, and there was a couple great teams. And I think now when you look at it, as you mentioned, there's multiple good teams. This league has gotten so much better over time. And I think now when you look at it, you have a multi-bid league, which anytime you have multi-bid league that just, and you play a round robin type of a schedule, and then this year adding the 20 games to it, it's going to make it even that much more competitive. There's great coaches in this league. There's great players in this league. I know every coach says that, especially during media days. But there really is. You look at it and you look at the trajectory of where the OVC is now compared to where it's been. Not only a pandemic, not only being a first-time head coach, but now when you return 12 or 15 players on an all-league team, I'm not sure this is the best time that you wanted to jump into the league. But again, it just speaks to the strength. I think that the bottom has gotten so much better, and the top is stronger than it's ever been. So it's really turned into a nice league, and it reminds me of where the Missouri Valley Conference was when I was a player, when we had multi-teams getting into the NCAA tournament.
Coach, welcome to the OVC. And we look forward to meeting you at some point in time along the way, be it inside a bubble somewhere or somewhere on the road. All the best to you. And again, welcome to Cape Girardeau.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.